you don't have to be a genius to do really well. You just kind of have to do what people ask you, or what they tell you they want from you.
Yeah.
They'll tell you if you listen, and then just do it for them, and you'll be miles ahead of every other guy.
Absolutely. And you look like a rock star because of the surprise, the thoughtfulness, and you're like, she gave me the idea.
Welcome to Dadsplaining, a weekly chronicle of all the weirdest, messiest, grossest, and funniest parts of fatherhood, hosted by two first-time dads. I'm Jesse.
And I'm Brandon.
And this week, in honor of Mother's Day in the United States this past weekend, we are going to be talking about moms. What we did with our wives, what our moms mean to us, what they have done for us growing up, and all that fun stuff. Before we get into it, Brandon, if our listeners want to reach out to us, where can they find us?
You can follow us on all major social media, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Dadsplaining Podcast. Please give us a like and a follow there. You can email us at dadsplainingpodcast@gmail.com, and you can find this and every episode anywhere you get your podcasts.
So, Brandon, what is new with Noah this week?
Well, I thought it'd be fun because obviously we're going to talk about Mother's Day in a bit if we just talk about some random side stuff that's been going on in life. And we took our first trip to the dentist this past week.
Oh my gosh, how did that go?
A lot less terrifying than I thought it was going to be.
Good.
For a very important reason, namely that they did not clean his teeth. Which is interesting because I would have assumed that's what was going to happen. So I was just expecting like terror, screaming, kicking, just like a massacre situation, and it was completely the opposite.
Wow, no drill, no scrapes?
No scraping, no nothing, because it was the first visit.
Right.
Apparently, the first visit is just kind of about establishing the relationship, bringing him into the office, meeting the dentist, kind of getting comfortable, and just talking about care of the teeth. So really, the dentist used it as time to talk to us, the parents, about what we should be doing. And then when he comes back for his next appointment closer to 2 years is when they'll actually start doing the normal kind of cleaning, brushing, etc.
I see.
So that was an immediate relief to figure that out.
Yeah.
And just some interesting kind of tidbits I felt like I'd pass on that we got from the doctor. If you really want to get a good inspection of the teeth, it can be very difficult because I have been afraid ever since my son has gotten teeth of him biting me.
Yeah.
If I put my fingers anywhere near the mouth, I'm going to get bitten. But apparently, and this will make him scream bloody murder, but you can use both of you where one person kind of lays the child down, kind of like you would on a changing pad, but on, say, like your lap, and your wife lays down the baby, and the head is basically lying in your lap upside down, and you can use a finger on the top lip and the bottom lip to basically hold the mouth open. This is sounding very exciting, I know. Everyone's going to rush home and do this. You can hold the mouth open and basically get that nice You have to force it because they don't want to do it.
Right.
And that's the fun part. And then you can get a good look at the teeth, and if you really want to go for the gold, you can brush the teeth in that way so you can get all of them.
This sounds really familiar to me because I have a dog, and that's basically the method I use to brush my dog's teeth.
Perfect. Kids or dogs,
once a week.
exactly.
Yeah, you pry the jaws open.
Kind of,
like you're a lion tamer, and then you get the brush in there.
But in a bit of a nicer way. You just use the fingers. Remember, just one finger on the top lip, one finger on the bottom lip, and you just kind of slowly hold it open. You're not grabbing the jaws and pulling them apart. Right. It's a baby.
Yeah.
I'm not saying we care about babies more than we care about our dogs. Maybe a little bit. But that's one way to go, and that can get you access to brush the teeth. Again, the kid is going to hate it, so be quick about it.
Right.
You should be using an actual toothbrush, in case you're not. And this is important because I know that there are these little like finger brushes that basically like a little piece of silicone or whatever you can put on a finger with a little pad on the end that you can rub around the finger in the mouth.
Yeah.
So you can use those early on, but at this point, my son is 13 months, and the dentist said, use a bristle brush specifically, so like a regular toothbrush. And we actually got a toothbrush for Noah from the dentist. It's so cute because it's basically the same as an adult brush, but about half the size.
Yeah.
And it's just like a little tiny thing that you can fit like in between your two fingers, and you just kind of like run it in the teeth. So that's another tidbit. And then if you're in a situation where we will still sometimes do a nighttime feed of breast milk or formula, if you do that, you do need to wipe the teeth off because the milk solids will stay on the teeth. Kind of like if, for us, if you drink a sugary soft drink or coffee or something and it stains the teeth, it's because the different things are kind of staying on your teeth. So if you went to bed without brushing your teeth, it would stay on there.
Right.
And it would kind of cause it to degrade or stain or whatever. Same kind of thing with a baby.
Okay.
Along the way. So that was a different one. And then at this point, it's also good to start using what we would say is fluoride toothpaste. So again, we have some baby toothpaste that has no fluoride. And the dentist said you can now start using fluoride toothpaste. Big caveat is use a very small amount.
I see.
Obviously, they only have so many teeth.
Yeah.
And the fluoride is very powerful, and they don't need a lot. Like
Right.
you and I don't need a lot either, and we're adults. You know, you're only supposed to get a small amount on your toothbrush. A baby, it's even way smaller. She said the size of a single grain of rice is how much fluoride toothpaste you're supposed to put on there. So good luck to everyone trying to guess how much is the size of a rice, a single grain of rice. But those are the tidbits, right? Like you kind of do the job yourself up until about 2 years. And it's just brush twice a day, use the bristle brush, use the fluoride. The fluoride, I think they said just use it once a day.
Yeah.
Doesn't have to be both times.
So what do you do with the other one? Just a dry brush?
Yeah, or just you could use maybe the non-fluoride toothpaste if you want to. I think it just has to do with the fact that the fluoride is obviously, there's an active ingredient there. It's kind of powerful. But twice a day just to keep them clean and whatnot, especially because, now you're eating solid foods and, you're getting all the particles in and things like that. And not really until they're about 2 years are you going to go in and do the big boy stuff at the dentist. If you're like... me, my son is on my dental plan already. I already have the family dental plan for everyone in the family, including him. So you can go in before 2 years because you get, covered twice a year checkups. So we obviously just went, he's 13 months covered. We can go again in 6 months, which we're going to do. So we'll go before 2 years and get that in just because he's already on the plan. He's already covered.
That's interesting. So we did not bring David in for that first dental checkup yet. My son David's a few months ahead of yours, and we could have, probably should have. But unlike you, I forgot to add my son to my dental plan this year during open enrollment at work because I'm bad at adulting. So we're going to have to wait until probably around the 2-year mark. But so we've been brushing David's teeth since he was about 12 months old.
Yeah, there you go.
And we've been using these, the short stubby toothbrushes. It's got kind of a wide bottom to it. Ours does, with a hole in the middle for the thumb.
Oh, okay.
And what we've been doing, we've only been doing it once a day, which is probably not enough, but we've been doing it at bath time. So that if it makes a mess, if it gets all over the place, that's fine. He's in the bath. And I guess the benefit to that is he's taken it pretty well. Like at first, it was a lot of fighting to get in there and start brushing his teeth. But now he's kind of used to it. And I've made it kind of a game every night by grabbing my phone and turning on. Did you watch The Fairly Odd Parents as a kid?
Absolutely.
On Nickelodeon.
Yeah, great show.
Do you remember the song My Shiny Teeth and Me?
Oh, I remember. It's coming back to me slowly, but
so there's look it up on YouTube. I'm not going to play it because we might get hit with a copyright violation. But there's a song. There's like a fictional pop star in the TV show that plays a song called "My Shiny Teeth and Me" about how important it is to brush and floss your teeth. So I play that every night. It's fun. It's catchy. It's poppy. It's about 2 minutes long, which is perfect. And I'll brush David's teeth, and he's learned to take the toothbrush from me and actually swish it around against his teeth on his own.
Very nice.
Yeah, exactly. So he's not afraid of it anymore. He kind of does it on his own. I don't know if he does it super well, but I make sure to get in there, for the first minute or so to kind of scrub everything front and back and all that stuff. So it sounds like I could be doing more. And we've been using fluoride-free toothpaste by Tom's of Maine, which is like a popular natural products kind of thing for babies. And it's been working pretty well, it seems. He doesn't really have that bad baby breath, which, is sort of the lazy way of judging whether or not his teeth are healthy. But it sounds like probably we could be stepping it up a little bit. So I'm glad that we talked about this.
Yeah, use a little fluoride if you want to do it twice a day rather than once a day. I'm not looking forward to it because I'm in the same boat. We only do it at night and during bath time for exactly the reason you said. I don't want to do it in the morning. Yeah. I'm a little afraid. And I like the song idea. It's funny. I have a song too. So if you don't want a nicely produced song that is catchy and that your kids might actually like, you are welcome to use the personal song that my wife and I have come up with called Brusha, Brusha, Brusha.
Okay.
It goes a little something like this. Brusha TVs, brusha TVs, brusha TVs, brusha, 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 brusha TVs, brusha TVs, brusha, brusha, brusha. It's so amazing and wonderful, and if you couldn't hear, that's just a pop song waiting to be made.
All right, I'm gonna find some music to play underneath that. I'm gonna add that in.
Brusha, brusha, brusha. Yeah, it's just the best song. Let me tell you.
I love that. Okay. All right, I dig it. We'll make that the theme song, and
Totally.
we'll get it to go viral.
Yep. How's it been going with you guys, Jesse?
It's been going great. So David had his follow-up visit yesterday to the ear, nose, and throat doctor. About a month ago, he had tubes put in his ears to correct the problems from ear infections. He was getting multiple ear infections from going to daycare, and his checkup went really well. He took another hearing test with the audiologist there at the doctor's office, and his hearing was very much improved. He was able to turn his head when they would play sounds on the left and right. Didn't seem to have any issues. They took a peek in there. Everything looked normal. They found a little dried blood on the inside, which is to be expected, kind of.
Okay.
But that was left over from the surgery itself. So it wasn't like he was still having discharge and bleeding. It was just that initial, and it was so deep in there that it just never made its way out. But what they told us, one little thing that I did not know that probably they should have told us after the surgery was that past this point, now that David has tubes in his ears, if he gets another ear infection, because he may, and I know that Noah has already had ear infections since the surgery, but you'll see it. You'll have the visible discharge coming out of the ears. They said it looks like snot, dried up snot around the ears coming
kind
out.
of, yeah.
I didn't know that. So a week or two ago, he was kind of tugging at one of his ears, and we were worried that he may have an ear infection.
Right.
But turns out that was kind of unfounded, because if it was infected, we probably would have seen something.
Yeah.
And the other benefit to that is if he does get another ear infection, all you really need to do is use the prescribed eardrops that they have given us.
Yeah.
And if it persists and if it doesn't go away, then you can take him to the doctor. So that saves us a trip. That saves us money. So there's a whole lot of benefits wrapped into that. So yeah, he's doing well. Doing really well, as well as you could expect, and I think bring him back in for his next checkup in November of this year. So 6 months from now, we'll have another update.
Awesome, that's great.
So on to this week's topic, moms. This past weekend here in America was Mother's Day. I say that because I know that it's on a different day of the year, depending on what country you live in.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. I think in England it falls in April, I think, or earlier. And I always freak out because I'll have British friends on Facebook that will start dropping like Happy Mother's Day posts. And I'm like,
late.
Oh my God, it's Mother's Day.
You're missing the boat.
Oh no. But anyway, so yeah, this past Sunday was Mother's Day. Brandon, what did you guys do this year? This was Austin's second Mother's Day as a legit mom, right?
Correct. Yeah. Having your child early in the spring basically guarantees that you get Mother's Day and Father's Day right off the bat. So we're working on our second go-through. And it was fun. I mean, we definitely kept it a lot more chill than the first time. First year of Mother's Day, Father's Day had to be kind of the big blowout. And so at this point, we're just tired.
Yeah, totally.
And we've been parents for over a year, and we're just tired. And so we just wanted to keep it a little bit lighter.
Sure.
And really the biggest challenge that I know everyone kind of feels in different ways and amounts is how do you balance all the mothers?
Yeah.
So now that we have a mother, our wives, for our children, we have to now stack that on top of our moms, grandparents that we also want to appreciate.
Yep.
Mothers-in-law are also a thing that you and I have been dealing with for a couple of years now already.
For sure.
And I don't mean dealing with like, oh my God, we got to take care of that.
Yeah.
I mean just like it's a part of our lives now, and we like those people as well. Love our mother-in-laws. And we have to celebrate everybody.
Yeah.
And I don't mean to make it sound negative either of like we have to do it, but I mean, you do have to allot the time. So we broke it up and did a little something for everybody, which is kind of our standard solution for any kind of a holiday.
Yeah.
Christmas, birthdays, whatever. We do multiple events for the same thing because we have multiple different families to interact with.
Yeah.
So we did a little lunch the day before Mother's Day with my wife's mother to kind of have that be the Mother's Day moment. And that was quite nice, although Noah really wanted to get down. He's not been doing so great at restaurants lately because he cannot sit still for a very long period of time, and a meal can take 1 to 2 hours.
Yeah.
At a restaurant, and this one was more like the 2-hour variety because it was super busy. And so he's getting a little hard to handle at the restaurants, just regardless of situation, because he'll eat and be really happy to do it. Eventually he will get done eating though, and he does not want to sit in the high chair anymore. He wants to get down and crawl.
Yeah, David's the same way now.
In most places that is not an acceptable thing to do because other people are eating.
Yeah.
So that's a challenge, but save that for another day. So we had lunch. It was really nice. Just kind of hanging out and just kind of keeping it casual. And like I said, we went the day before Mother's Day. We did not go out to eat on Mother's Day because that's
smart.
Kind of just suicidal.
Yeah.
You just don't want to even bother.
You're asking for trouble.
And it was already busy enough the day before because a lot of other people are smart like us.
Yeah.
So that was one. And then for Noah's mom, my wife, again, didn't want to go over the top. I thought about like the glitz and the glam of like going out, and it just seemed like it was going to be way too much of a burden. And the last thing I wanted to do was add stress to my wife.
Totally.
You know, she wants to be recognized, and she should be, but you don't want to add the stress.
Yeah.
So I just made breakfast.
Nice.
For Mother's Day. Made a little French toast, zhuzhed it up a little bit, some strawberries, some powdered sugar, kind of fancy. Noah loves French toast.
Oh.
I now know this.
That's awesome.
Because he had a little bit.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, he's a carb-loving guy, just
for him.
Just like myself.
Oh, yeah.
Any kind of breakfast food is his jam. So yeah, we had a nice little breakfast. At 7:00, of course.
Yeah.
Because that's when we were already up. And then just kind of went about our day. We had lunch with some friends, but we didn't do it Mother's Day-y, and we specifically went to a non-Mother's Day type of place.
Right.
Like, we got together and we're like, we're going to have lunch because we typically have lunch on Sundays after church anyway. And we're like, what place doesn't say Mother's Day? A bar. Okay, let's go there. And that's basically what we did.
Yeah.
And then we rounded it off with my family. We went over to their house, had dinner, and that was kind of for my mom. So we got a lot of nice family stuff in. We got our own little moment, and we got a little bit of friend fun kind of mixed in there. So it was just kind of a low-key but still busy kind of day. But I think it worked out pretty good. What was the situation on your side?
So it was a little bit unconventional for Mother's Day this year for a couple of reasons. So for one thing, there is, like you said, you got to make sure to fit everybody in because you got lots of moms in your life. So my wife and I, we live about an hour away from our families. Luckily, our families both live in the same city because we grew up in the same town.
Right.
But that means we have to pack up everything and travel down there, the night before so that we can spend the whole day, with our moms and divide up the time evenly as you do.
Of course.
And so there was a little bit of that mixed in, which meant that we didn't really have room to do a full-on celebration on our own. But again, like you guys, we're tired. We don't want a big to-do, know, and my wife was in the same boat. So my wife and I, over the past year, we have kind of gotten a better understanding of what do we want? Can we communicate it in advance? No need for big surprises, that kind of thing. Because last year I tried to surprise my wife for stuff, and you guys can actually go back and listen to this. This was one of the first episodes we did. I mentioned that it did not go super well because I wasn't on that level with her. I tried to surprise her with what I thought she might want. It wasn't really what she wanted as a mom on her first Mother's Day.
Yep.
This time around, I asked her in advance, do you want a big surprise? No. What I do want is this cookbook. Based on, there's a great Netflix show called, I think, Salt, Acid, Fat, Heat. It's a cooking show. Which I have started to call Salt, Acid, Fat, Greek Wedding, just because I like to combine things.
Okay.
But she wanted the cookbook from the woman that cooks on that show. So I made sure to add that to our list, and then she forgot about it. So I kind of surprised her by reminding her a few days before. So I still got a surprise in.
That is the brilliant way to do it. Just to pause for a second, you got, dads out there, like, this is the thing, right? Just be listening throughout the year. I know this is hard. Listening is hard. But just whenever your wife points to something and says, oh, that's great, or man, I wish I had that, do what I do. Take out your phone. You already have your phone in your hand probably. Put it in the notes. Just write down exactly what she said.
Yep.
Sit on it.
Yeah.
The best thing you can do, just sit on it. Do nothing with that information. Say nothing.
Yeah.
Then use it for the gift, and you get the big aha.
Exactly. So I've learned that so many times in life. You don't have to be a genius to do really well. You just kind of have to do what people ask you, or what they tell you they
will
want
tell
from you.
Yeah.
They'll tell you if you listen,
Yeah.
and then just do it for them, and you'll be miles ahead of every other guy.
Absolutely.
I'm
And you look
telling
like
you.
a rock star because of the surprise, the
Right.
thoughtfulness, and you're like, she gave me the idea.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But traveling down to visit my family, we have a member of our family that's not doing very well right now. She's getting older. She's going through some health problems, and a lot of my family, we had to kind of rally around her, and so we didn't want a big Mother's Day celebration this year because people were going to be visiting her and things like that. So we didn't do a big lunch or a big dinner, but what we did was we made sure to kind of stop by the houses and spend some quality time with family. So I got to see my mom, David's grandma, who he calls Yaya, or he doesn't call her Yaya yet because he doesn't really say much, but he will. That's what we call her, as well as my grandmother, who is his, we'll just say great grandmother is probably what he'll end up calling her. And then we also saw my wife's mom and my wife's grandma. So David is lucky enough to have 2 great grandmothers, 3 great grandmothers right now, because my dad's mother is also still in the picture.
Yeah.
We didn't get to see her this year, but we did see her a couple of weeks ago. So again, no big celebrations, just the standard chocolates and flowers and and things like that, and then quality time, really. So it was laid back, which was kind of nice. But the lesson we learned is that something we're going to do next year is we're going to try and devote more time to just ourselves.
Yeah.
That's something that I'm kind of learning. Like, there is the need to spend time with all of the family and make sure that David sees the grandparents and the great-grandparents and the cousins and aunts and uncles. But if you're like us and you don't live close enough for that to be convenient, you really have to stop and make sure that you're taking time to just do you. And we didn't do enough of that this year. So we did a lot of traveling, a lot of running around, and then we got back Sunday night and we were really exhausted. And I was like, next year we'll make sure we'll have just Mother's Day for us, and then we'll do the traveling stuff.
Makes sense. Yeah.
Exactly. That's probably a good point to pivot from that just to talking about, I wanted to spend some time today just talking about our moms and how we grew up, being raised by awesome moms and stuff that we learned from them. So Brandon, you obviously, your mom was in the picture. You had a mom and a dad.
Yep.
What kind of mom was your mom like?
I would say that my mom, I don't know, I'm trying to, how do you encapsulate a wonderful person in so many, basic words, but just what you would really hope for as a mom, looking back when you can understand it, and now knowing what it's kind of like to be a mom, because we get to see it up close and personal. We're dads, we're not moms. It's a little different, but we can see the day-to-day interactions. And so my mom was just a wonderful, loving, caring, compassionate kind of a person. And it's just, those are just great qualities that are not guarantees. And everybody is maybe caring and loving in different ways. We talked about this with the love languages episode.
Yeah.
A couple back. People express love in different ways. My mom was a very overt kind of a person where hugs, big on hugs, kisses, whatever it is, like you knew when you were getting the love and attention. And so obviously it was very easy to be a bit of a mama's boy at times. And, just kind of had that nice upbringing along the way, and just a good role model along the way. And I mean, her parents gave her that modeling, as well as actually my dad's mother, who, one of my grandmothers has obviously been, she's local, and my mom's family was not local. And so she got to kind of be taken under the mother-in-law and had kind of a nice situation there as well to learn from. But I thought it'd be fun to do like a quick also background. I don't know why. Maybe this is weird, but I just thought it was fun. And so cue Ken Burns documentary. My mother was born in the year of 19... No, anyway. But just the background, right? My mom grew up in, a rural part of Georgia, the state we live in like farming kind of a community, and that's what they did there.
Yeah.
And so it was super common for most people to stay in that town, and you kind of get this idea, not just if you live in a farming town, but like small town living, that's just kind of, a lot of people end up sticking with that, and you're kind of there your whole life, and everybody knows your name, and blah, blah, blah. It's exactly like that.
Yeah.
Every time we would visit. And I say we would visit because she moved away for college And then obviously met my dad, and they kind of settled, and they stuck around more of the city. I kind of grew up in the suburbs, so not like downtown, but that was obviously a big change for her. And I'm obviously fortunate because of that, because if she had stayed in the farming community and, the small town, I wouldn't be here probably.
Yeah.
And, a lot of things that go with that, she kind of broke the mold and the tradition, right? She obviously didn't stay there. She, went off to college, got educated, which plenty of people in our family got educated as well. I'm not saying anything of that nature. But she became a teacher. Actually, a lot of that side of the family are teachers, which is fantastic. Like, teachers are just some of the best people. And so another facet to that is that she wasn't, a home-based mom. She was a working mom.
Yeah.
And that's not something that everybody goes through, but it's a lot more common now. And I just kind of think about it of like, we talk about it as very common now, but the generation before it was not common.
Yeah.
Not to this level of what we have today. And there was a brief period in the beginning of our lives when my mom hadn't fully gotten off to the teacher thing, and she was doing like a little bit of preschool along the way, but eventually she, understood the value of kind of having a job that meant something to her.
Yeah.
And that obviously provided a really great role model alongside my dad. Like, we kind of expect it of dads, and you and I know this as dads, like, we're expected to bring the bacon and all that kind of stuff. And so I'm grateful because I think that's just who she is. Yeah, I think of her as loving and caring and compassionate, and she's a great teacher because those are her qualities. Like, those are the qualities you would want in a teacher. And so, I don't know. I am one of many people who is lucky to have felt like they've been mommed by her, probably, because she's a teacher and she just interacts with so many people. And I don't know. That's what I wanted to start with. So I'm going to kick it over to you. Talk for a minute. I'm going to calm it down, and then we can come back to me.
Sure. Yeah. So my mom, she grew up in a family business. And when my mom was a kid, her father, my granddad, opened up a restaurant in the metro Atlanta area.
Nice.
And from her teenage years, she started working there. It was a family business. Everyone worked there. My grandmother worked there. My aunt worked there. Eventually, when my parents got married, my dad started working there. But that's actually where she met my dad, was working at this restaurant. She was a cashier at the time, and he was a few years older than her. 3 years older. Wasn't that much of an age difference. But to her at the time, he was this like kind of scary adult, you know what I mean? But they were interested in each other, and my dad asked her parents if it'd be okay if he asked her out, and at first she didn't want to, but then they started dating and they fell in love and got married and all that. But growing up in that business, she became a working mom. She didn't go out and make a point like, I'm going to go out and make a career in this. It's just that's what needed to happen to help the family get by, right? And she carried that through, and then so that as a consequence, I grew up in that family business,
right?
The same as she did. And so I got to actually hang out with my mom during the summers, working kind of alongside her. I was little, so I wasn't really working,
Sure, but
child
you were
labor
probably
laws
cute.
being what they are.
You were probably cute. Yeah. Look at him. He's rolling the silverware. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, but it was really cool because I got to see my mom, not just as a mom, but I got to see her as part of the bigger world, helping out the family, supporting the family, being a working person. And I think that was something that kind of stuck with me, that you rally around the family, you help. Everyone helps each other, succeed, and everyone pitches in and works, and that you're not just one thing. My mom wasn't just a mom. She was also part of the business. So as a mom, I remember there's this cool mix with my mom where she was laid back and hands off. She gave me freedom, but she wasn't absent. It wasn't like she went to work and that was it, and I never saw her, and she would come home and tuck me in at night. Like, she was there, but just enough to kind of let me kind of sort of grow on my own, which is really cool. And I don't know if she did that intentionally, or if that was just her personality, but it really influenced the way that I am as a person today, but also kind of as a parent, or at least what I want to be. I don't always hit that mark. We talked about that last week. I don't always fall in line with who I think I am as a parent.
Hey, it's tough out there.
Yeah, exactly. But it was really cool. Like, she would check in on me, just enough to see, how am I doing? What do I want to do? Do I want to play this sport or that sport? And she would encourage me, get out there, get active, find something fun, find a hobby, do well in school, but she wasn't overbearing.
Yeah, nice.
She would check in and say, are you feeling okay? Are you spending enough time with your friends? But she wouldn't pressure me, hey, you need to get out of the house. It's Friday night. Stop playing video games, because I played a lot of video games.
Oh, yeah.
But it was this really cool mix where she was there enough. She was there where I wanted her to be as a mom. And she was nurturing, not overbearing, encouraging, not demanding. I don't know. Like, that's all these cool qualities that I kind of got from her are what I'm now kind of trying to emulate. And I learned a lot from my dad, too, but we'll talk about that come Father's Day.
Father's Day, you're coming, dads. We're not forgetting about you.
Exactly. I'm not forgetting about you, Danny Brooks. But that's just who my mom was. And I think she got a lot of that from her parents, because her parents were the same kind of great mix. Like, I lost my granddad when I was probably 13 years old. But seeing them together, they were kind of the yin and yang, that perfect mix of encouraging and nurturing and motivating and, taking care of, So I'm sort of the result of multiple generations of that, of moms who are a good combination of make sure you follow the rules, but also kind of grow and be your own person and don't worry too much about anything.
Right.
So, I don't know where I'm kind of going with all this, because
you're going somewhere great. You're doing good.
Yeah, that's just how life is. Like, I'm just going to kind of learn as I go along, kind of based on what she taught me. But I just, overall, I think what I want to say is it's really cool that I had a mom like that, and that I'm able to now kind of take some of those lessons and apply it to my own dad style.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's a good point. Learning from your parents, we don't just take the things we learned from our dads about being dads and use that on our own. We take a lot of what we learned from our moms and we use that to be good dads, because it's not about the gender, situation. You're getting parenting skills and you're using those as a parent.
Totally.
It's not like we can only do from dad to dad and moms go to moms. Like, it doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
Or hopefully we are evolved enough to do that.
Yeah. And I think it's going to happen that way whether you want it to or not. Like, you end up becoming a version of your parents. And then there are some things that you do differently, but some things are going to come in from both sides.
Yeah, absolutely. If I want to kick around at another fond memory, I don't have like a single one. I mean, I think it's hard. Memory's hard in general. So I've been trying to think of specific moments, and it's been difficult, because it's obviously been a number of years, just for our lives in total, and also since we were kids. The things that stick with me are like the bigger picture, long-term stuff, like, when I was growing up, both of my parents, but obviously my mom, one of them, was always there every time we did basketball, baseball games all year round. And like, my brother and I both played sports pretty much year round, and she was always there, always along with my dad. I mean, they were both there. So again, like, we're not ignoring the dad side of it. I'll talk about it.
But you'll get yours in a month.
Right. Exactly. But it was just like a big deal to have parents that were obviously heavily involved. We talked about the working side of it as well, and just how cool, and now you and I know how challenging that is.
Yeah.
To think about the fact that for 15 years probably, as I was growing up, and for my brother as well, who's older than me, so 18 years if you want to think about the two of us, both of our parents were always with us and taking us to activities after school, during the week, multiple times, and on weekends. And they did all of that on top of having jobs. Like, dang. Yeah. Just like, my God, I want to be able to do that, but I'm already worried. It's a lot of work. It's really tough. And then the one thing, I mentioned my mom was a teacher. Like, people focus on something, and that's kind of where they want to really provide value. And my mom was on education, of course, because that's, very important to her. And she's obviously got a very good grasp on how critical education is. So if she was ever really tough on me, because I don't just remember her being a strict disciplinarian in general, but it was about my grades, doing well in school, paying attention, taking it seriously. And, if I hadn't had people looking out for that, I wouldn't have been able to achieve as much as I did. And it didn't stop, just because I got past elementary school or middle school or high school. Like, even into college, they're writing me to make sure that I'm doing as good as I can. So talk about, influence. It's not just a moment. It's a lifetime of caring about the things that are very important, and also just being present for the things that, me as a kid thought was important, like having people being there for my games and taking me to the, the sporting events and things like that.
Nice. So the other thing I wanted to bring up with my mom that I kind of picked up from her is kind of a self-effacing sense of humor.
Ooh, yeah.
Yeah, growing up, so my mom is like me. She's a smart person, but there are some things that you would think would be common sense that would just come naturally that maybe slip our minds. Like she'll mix up words a lot, and then we'll use that as fodder to kind of poke fun at her for years and years and years. And she'll use it for herself too. We were on vacation in Florida one year, and she tried to say, "Oh, look, jet skis," but instead she said, "Oh, look, ski jets." Which,
Good.
It seems like such a sort of a bland thing, but when you were there in the moment, it was so hilarious. And the fact that we've kept it up for years, and that's just what we call them in our house now, has become this kind of heartwarming inside joke that we can all rally around.
Yeah.
But she's always the first one to kind of poke fun at herself. So I've kind of picked that up with myself, and I'm okay, with getting made fun of and taking something dumb that I do and turning it into a joke. And as a result of that, I'm maybe not as sensitive as a person as I could have been if my parents grew up being like, "Don't make fun of me for that." Like that's something
Right.
I'm sensitive. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like they're okay pointing out their own flaws. And I think that that's something kind of important that I'm hoping that I can kind of pass on to David as I grow up.
If not, she will, right? That's
Yeah.
what's important. And I think it's funny you bring that up because that was actually one thing similar that I realized about my mom. And one thing I wanted to think through and talk about was just what you notice about your mom later on in life.
Yeah.
As I mentioned, it's hard to pick out specific memories of when I was like having knowledge and wisdom imparted to me by either of my parents because I was young and I didn't get it.
Yeah.
But now, and really probably since, I don't know, college and onward, I would say, it's not like you get wise suddenly in college, but like you're just old enough now where you notice it, and noticing the things that you didn't notice about your parents is that apparently my mom is a funny one. And like, I guess I started to notice it whenever I would start to see her with some of her friends all of a sudden and pay attention to that instead of just being like, moms are their friends, whatever. When you're old enough to kind of understand it and appreciate it, you're like, oh my God, my mom's a jokester. She's the person that makes other people laugh. She likes to be quirky and just kind of weird.
Yeah. Well, I know that's true. I've met your mom several times, and she's a very warm person, and she's got a huge sense of humor.
If you meet her, you're just like instantly, right? But as a kid growing up, you're just like, that's my mom, man.
Yeah.
But then when you figure it out, you're like, oh my God. And then you have these big aha moments, and you're like, that's why I'm the way I am.
Yeah.
And it's just really weird and interesting how it truly just does take time to really appreciate some of these things and how they're like ingrained in you and you didn't even realize it was being implanted within you along the way. In a good sense of humor and just kind of wacky weirdness.
Yeah.
Like when I was starting to date Austin, my wife, her mom thought I was like really quiet because I was probably just afraid of doing anything in front of her or talking to her over much. And then after it kind of became clear we were going to be dating for the long haul and whatnot, I started to apparently come out of my shell and like crack the jokes that I like to do. And she was like, oh my God, Brandon's funny. And so that's just, that's what it is. That's where I get it and that's where it comes along. And it's not like my dad didn't contribute to that too.
Yeah.
But that's just weird to like realize things about your parents that you had no idea were always there and always a part of them, and you finally become aware.
Yeah, well, I think so much of those things are, I think they're kind of unconscious as parents. And I don't want to say effortless because parenting is really hard to do.
Super hard.
But I don't think my parents ever intentionally tried to pass on their personality traits to me.
Yeah.
My dad's work ethic, my mom's sense of humor, kind of the way they parented, I think was natural. It was hard work, but it was just naturally who they were. And so now what I'm doing is I'm trying not to be too intentional, you know what I mean, with making my son, into a miniature version of me.
Right.
So I'm going to have to keep that in mind growing up that like, kind of just be yourself around your kid and hopefully they'll pick up the good stuff and then all the bad stuff they'll like look back on as an adult and say, okay, I'm not doing that with my kid.
Right.
And, they'll be smart enough to make that judgment on their own. But I think that is something that should be recognized is that, parents, be yourselves and your kids will pick up on it. And, don't feel like you have to fit this mold of what a perfect dad or a perfect mom should look like. Like you are going to be, if you're being yourself and, you're actually giving a damn and trying, you're going to be a good mom and a good dad. And they're going to get that. And you are going to be the model of what a mom and dad should be. Not June and Bob Cleaver or whatever his name
Right.
was. I don't remember.
I don't think you got that right, actually, maybe.
Did I? Hey, all
I'm pretty sure
right.
June Cleaver, maybe.
Yeah, I know there was June. I don't know who the dad was.
I don't know. Beaver's dad.
Yeah,
That's
Beaver
what
Senior.
That's what we're going with, yeah.
Beaver Cleaver Senior.
Yep. I think we can wrap it up best as a thank you.
Yeah. Thanks,
you.
Mom.
Thank you, Mom.
Yeah. And thanks to our moms' and our moms' moms.
Yes, all of the moms.
Going way back into history because it's, it's a lineage. All right, so before we go today, I wanted to pull up I wanted to very quickly look at an article that Brandon, you texted to me last week that I thought was really cool. It came out of USA Today, and the headline is Why American Moms Are Seriously Struggling. Full disclaimer, I have not finished reading this article. It's pretty long. It's an expose, basically. But there's a lot of, I know you were like me in that you really like facts and stats and bullet points, like we're numbers guys. So talk to me a little bit about why you sent this to me.
Yeah, this was brought up right around Mother's Day because as the article starts by pointing out, we always think of Mother's Day as the sappy, lovey-dovey wonderfulness. And what people don't talk about is the everything else.
Yeah.
Jesse, I think you had a pretty good metaphor once upon a time in a prior episode of like, the thing we see and project is the highlight reel, and a lot of what we don't see is the blooper reel. And that's kind of what this article is getting to, is that just reminding everyone, like, hey, expectations that we have for society are still at play, and we're not really acknowledging the extra burden that moms tend to have.
Yeah.
It's not as if dads aren't a part of the equation more than ever, because they are, and this article does talk about that. But it brings up the extra burden that moms just inherently are still carrying, largely from a societal standpoint. So there's a lot of stats in here. I'm going to try to pick out the good ones, and we'll post a link so everyone can see it. The good news is it does have a lot of bullets in here that are just easy takeaways. So, for example, going back to 1975, half of moms were staying at home, 50% of them. Today, only 30%.
Yeah.
So 70% of the time, both parents are working. So obviously a big shift has happened, which we all kind of know.
Yeah, and a quick side note to that is that a lot of times these days, it's not because of that's just what we want to do. It's because that's what we have to do. It's because in general, it costs more to live now, and income hasn't really risen to match that. Like, when we tried to explain to one of our family members like how much our house was going to cost, they're like, "No, you can get a good house for $150,000." We're like, "No, you can get a condemned house for $150,000." And we looked at a few of those, and we really considered it.
Yeah.
But it just plain costs more to live now. So both parents have to dive into the workforce, and it's freaking hard.
Exactly. So hopefully you're doing it because you want to, and the mom in the life wants to do that job. But yeah, sometimes they just don't have a choice. It does bring up that dads are doing a lot more parenting, but it's still not equal, right? And one of the examples is that in 2016, moms were spending 14 hours a week on average on top of work taking care of kids.
Yeah.
So being at home with your kids after work, like all of those hours, or you leaving work early, or whatever your job situation is, you're still spending 14 hours a week just on your kids. And I've also seen a stat that says that basically moms are doing 2.5 jobs. So they're doing the day job, they're doing the nighttime job, and then there's an extra half on top of that just because there's so much that goes on with both of those, and then the relationship and whatever else. Like there's an extreme amount of work.
Yeah.
And then this article also brings in technology into the conversation. Social media is a thing that's new, and other generations didn't have it. And it's described here as pervasive, right? Everyone's on it. And so more than ever, you now do the comparison.
Yeah.
And we've talked about this several times and how dangerous it is, but we've also freely admitted that you and I do it. Yeah. We compare ourselves to other parents and other dads. And moms, I think, especially feel it, again, just more than we do, because the whole relationship of I'm the mother, like I've created this child, like this is a specific, unique thing compared to being a dad. And so moms are seeing all these posts, and now there's things like Instagram moms, and like I just kind of hate that a little bit, because
mom blogs and
it's just not realistic, and it's not fair. Our wives are doing a fantastic job. Our moms did a fantastic job. They shouldn't have to deal with that on top of it, but they do. Like, that's just the reality.
Mm-hmm.
And kind of the last piece, because I won't talk through the entirety article, is that in America, especially in the U.S., we're even more extra.
Mm-hmm.
Like, extra on top of it more than we should be. And it
Yeah.
comes down to things that we've talked about before. Paid leave isn't a thing,
Mm-hmm.
okay? Paid leave is only available to 17% of workers in the U.S.
I didn't know that.
That's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing universal. There's nothing that gives anyone paid leave
Now, are we
regardless
talking
of
about
situation.
maternity leave?
We are.
Yeah.
Or even paternity leave,
Yeah.
like paid leave to kind of be with your child post-birth or just anything of that nature. Not even necessarily just that, because something that could come up, right, is let's say your kid is sick.
Mm-hmm.
If you need to be home with him, you have to take a sick day.
Yeah.
As the parent,
Right.
to be with your kid who is sick.
Yeah.
Most jobs don't have some kind of a flexible leave situation where you can take paid leave to do that other than taking a sick day. And if you've run out of sick days, what do you do?
Yeah,
right?
exactly. That's my wife actually. Like, just looking at the stats and realizing my wife doesn't really have, strictly speaking, maternity leave when she
Right.
has a kid. She has to take disability.
Yeah, same.
Which, you know, if she does that and then she falls and breaks her knee like she did last year, good luck.
Right.
You know, figure it out. And yeah, you're right. It's huge. And the fact that I guess, let's see, I'm bad at math, but that means that 83% of American moms, when they have kids, they just got to figure it out.
Yep.
Like how to take the time off. There's actually a great episode of the NBC show Superstore where a woman, the main character, has a baby, and then 3 days into it, her boss is calling her like, hey, remember when I told you that you could take off as much time as you needed? Well, I need you back today. And it's a joke, but like that's a reality for a lot of people. Like you got to get right back into it if you're going to make money and afford to feed your kids.
Yeah, it's just a cruel cycle. And like, you know, this is something, the leave stuff is something that needs to be done at a national level, I think. And that's federal and that, you know, legislation, all that good stuff. But we talked about paid leave is not really a thing. Unpaid leave, we kind of hear it talked about. There's something called the Family Medical Leave Act, FMLA, here in the U.S., which if you listen to how it's talked about, and I've contributed to this, you just talk about it as a blanket. Anyone can take time off for any kind of family reason, which is usually about you give birth and you get that time off. And it basically guarantees that you cannot be fired during that period of about 3 to 4 months.
Only during that period, though. Like we should emphasize, you can get back and then they can replace you on that day, and that's legal.
Exactly.
Like they can be like, okay, well, you're not really a good fit for this job anymore, but they can't fire you and replace you during the time that you're off. That kind of sucks.
It does. And what was interesting is this actually challenged a preconception I had, because this says that unpaid leave under the Family Medical Leave Act only applies to 59% of workers.
See, I didn't know that.
So it's actually not, as I would have thought, just universal, anyone can do it, because presumably, depending on what kind of job you've got, like, I don't know the details, but maybe like an hourly job, you know, if you're a barista, if you work at McDonald's, I don't know, maybe that's not a thing.
Yeah.
But it's not universal, and it's important to understand, because we probably will just go around assuming and then spouting off to other people, which I've done this, I've already said, and just be like, oh yeah, just use your FMLA. You may not know that the person you're talking to, that's not an option for them.
Yeah.
And so...
or that no one has even explained it to them.
Right. What it is, how to use it, and maybe there is no one to explain it to them because their HR aren't helpful, or they don't even have HR. Who knows? So the last kicker is that the result here is that half of moms take less than 2 months off after giving birth. And then a quarter go back to work with less than 2 weeks after giving birth. And there's just a whole host of issues that goes with that. Obviously, you don't get the parenting and the bonding and the feel goods. And a lot of that, though, can actually create longer term problems, because you're not getting the time immediately after birth. You're not going to get it longer, you know, even further down the road, because you're going to continually be working. So you don't get to do the parenting, you don't get to do the bonding. It can affect your child's development along the way if your time is limited.
Yeah.
So we're just not set up as a society to succeed, and extra pressure and extra consequences, unfortunately, are falling on moms, because they're supposed to be the ones staying home. They obviously want to stay home, and they should have that capacity to do it. And then down the road, when you are working, again, you have these expectations that are crazy, that you should be able to do the 2.5 jobs I talked about with a smile on your face and cupcakes in hand, and it's just completely unreasonable to expect it. The article does point out that more dads are getting involved and in the picture. But it's just not where it needs to be.
Yeah. And I want to pair the fact that most women will take less than 2 months off with the fact that there's another stat in here. Nearly half of grandparents live more than 5 hours from their grandkids these days. Because these days, you grow up in the suburbs, you move to the city for college, you get a job, you move to another city for a job because it's hard to find a job. And then before you know it, you're in another state or you're on the other side of the state. Or, I mean, I thought I had it bad. We live an hour away from the grandparents. Like, that's nothing compared to what a lot of people go to. So that means when you're a mom and you have the kid, your husband, if he's lucky, takes off 2 to 3 weeks to be with you. Like, that's a rare situation. I was very lucky that I had that and that you had the leave that you had. Most dads don't even get that or don't take it if they have it. But then you got to go back to work and then there's no one. There's no one to watch that kid. So you got to figure it out. Can I put my kid in daycare at 2 months old? Can I find a reliable sitter that I can trust? And where am I going to get the money to do that? Like, it is I don't know. I don't like to get too negative, but it is a really hard situation. And, it's just something that you got to think about. And on that bright note, we are going to conclude this week's episode of Dadsplaining a Fatherhood Podcast.
It's a bright note because if you go back to earlier when we talked about our moms, they did it, guys. Like, people will get it done. We believe in you. You might be like, well, I don't care. I'm a roll up my sleeves kind of person. I'm going to get it done. Abso-frickin-lutely, of course you are. And it's going to work. What's annoying to me is like a lazy argument that says like, well, I'll figure it out. I can get it done. I'm strong. And then you go through 20 years of, that first part of raising the kid and you're like, see, I did it. You totally did, but everyone shouldn't have to do that if they don't want to.
Yeah, totally.
Sorry, just felt like I had to. This was another rant apparently.
We need help. Everyone needs help. And moms, you guys are awesome. That I think we'll leave it at that. Before we go today, I wanted to give a quick shout out to 2 dads who follow us that reached out to us in the past month. One is Chris Rich. Hey, Chris, if you're listening, how's it going? You sent us a video of your 19-month-old son, who I guess is 20 months old now, playing basketball in the living room, like tossing a little foam ball into a trash can with mom and dad. I don't know. We thought that was really cute and really cool. My son is awesome. 18 months old, and there's no way he would have those kind of hoops skills. So your kid's a baller, and I think that's really cool. Congrats, man. And then also to Chris Playa, who tagged us in a post in the past couple of weeks. He was expecting the birth of, I believe, his first kid. He said that he was days or weeks away, so it could be that you guys have had the baby. If you have, congratulations. If you haven't, best of luck. Hope everything's going great for y'all. And thank you guys for tagging us and reaching out to us and all of our listeners. Like, please continue to do that. We want to hear what's going on in your lives as parents. And keep it up. You're doing great.
Yep. And if you want to get in on that action or see the cute videos, follow us on Instagram was where some of that happened at Dadsplaining Podcast. Twitter and Facebook, same thing. And then the standard wrap-up, we've got dadsplainingpodcast@gmail.com. If you have a question or a comment or you want to send us anything, you can do that. And then you can hear about this episode, the next episode, all the past episodes we always tend to reference anywhere you get your podcasts.
That's right. Hey, Brandon, what are we talking about next week?
So another interesting kind of article sparked a discussion between Jesse and I, and we thought it'd be good to kind of go back to talking about how you can prepare for the actual birth setup. We actually had a previous episode where we talked with the new dad about his experience. We thought it'd be good to revisit, talk about prep for that, and then we've got an interesting article that we'll dive into again that talks about how it's actually very challenging directly after the birth and how moms face certain complications that you should really be aware of as a dad.
That's right. So until next time, I'm Jesse.
And I'm Brandon.
And hey, Brandon, what do you call a movie director who needs glasses?
I have no idea.
Squintin' Tarantino.
Hey-o.
Sorry. All right, we'll see you guys next time.